On July 20th, 2023, the worst day for men occurred, an event so apocalyptic that the brave masculinity protectors had to fight against the potential annihilation of all men on Earth. 2 months later, and their brave fight has failed, leaving carnage and chaos across the world. The once great power of the masculine empire fell to the overwhelming strength of one film, and with it, all men have perished from being. Either that, or all the masculinity protectors were just full of shit. Yeah, let's talk about that shit, shall we? Man, what a wild couple months it's been. We could have just been enjoying the release of a fun movie, but instead I've watched more hours of content complaining about the Barbie movie than the actual length of the Barbie movie. Yes, I do regret my decisions. But now at least I can share that pain in the form of content to feed the algorithm, sending it out to my non-existent subscriber base, in order to make it that I totally didn't just waste my time and energy. Right? Let's get started with the first dude I want to talk about, the phone hacker himself, Piers Morgan. Piers' campaign against this movie actually started before the movie even came out.
One plays Dr. Barbie, one plays a Barbie with a Nobel Prize in physics, one is a mermaid Barbie. However, all the male characters in Barbie world are simply called Ken. So it's pretty clear where this movie is going. This is an assault on not just Ken, but all men.
Now, when I first saw that clip, I assumed that it was some sort of genius marketing ploy by Warner Brothers to make me want to see the movie, because it made me very excited for it. But it turns out, no, that was a very serious point from a very silly man. This rant was the start of a hate-filled obsession that was so strong by Piers that you'd assume that the movie had one work drink with him and then went on to marry Prince Harry. The obsession would lead him to publish an article that was put out through Murdoch outlets worldwide and another internationally airing TV segment. In his article, Piers claimed that if he was to do the same movie but gender swapped, feminists would want to see him beheaded. Now, me personally, I don't talk for the feminist movement, but I don't need Piers Morgan to make a movie to want to see that happen. I think that would be the best TV he's made in his entire life. Now, Piers, if you're mad that this movie has scenes where male characters are shown to be just subsequent side characters for the more developed female characters and for their gays, if you gender flip that, you get most movies, you idiot. So why does Piers hate the Barbie movie so badly? Well, let's hear him explain what the movie is.
The core focus of Barbie is, oh God, the patriarchy. The word is used endlessly in the movie, even though most people, including me actually, have no real idea what patriarchy really means. I guess it means all men are evil till they can prove otherwise.
All men are evil. Rah, rah, rah. Feminists claim all men are evil. God, we're barely into the first video and we're already at a not all men argument. They don't even have other bullshit arguments anymore. They just throw out the same ones over and over again. But also, Piers, buddy, do you actually not know what the patriarchy is? You, of all people, a man whose entire career has benefited from the patriarchy, you don't know what it is? See, this is the first glimpse of the ultimate goal of these guys. Besides milking views and trying to gain relevancy by talking about a popular topic and trying to get clickbait headlines, the other main thing is culture wars. See, any normal journalist would go, oh, people might not know what the patriarchy is. It's literally my job to inform the public, so I'll do that. But no, instead, culture war idiots will go, do you know what the patriarchy is? I'm not going to tell you because it's far too scary. Be afraid. Be very afraid. It's very confusing. Even just mentioning the term will lead to you being banned from hugging your kids and being forced to drink Bud Light. Now, the good news for me and for you as the audience is this is about as far as I'm going to go with the dissection of Piers Morgan's content, mainly because he hasn't actually seen the movie. His family have, and they enjoyed the movie, but that doesn't matter. Their opinions can't be trusted by Piers, No, he can't form his own opinion either. Of course not. Instead, he just takes his entire description of the movie and all of his talking points from just one man.
Well, folks, I just got back from the theaters seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm about to review both of them. I said certified freak 7 days a week. Wet ass P word. Make that pullout game weak. Yeah, you effin' with some wet ass P word. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P word. Give me everything you got for this wet ass P word.
If you're watching this video, you already know that this dork has been complaining about the movie for months. In fact, old Benny Boy has dropped 5 videos on the topic and the ensuing outrage. So, if you don't mind me, I watched all 5 of Ben Shapiro's videos about the Barbie movie so that you don't have to. Ben Shapiro hated this movie.
Final rating. Out of 10 Barbies. How many Barbies? 10 out of 10 being good. The answer is negative all the Barbies. Negative all of them. I honestly, just as a piece of film, this sucker goes in like my bottom 10 ever. Ever. It is that bad. Not just because of the politics, because the plot makes no sense, because the writing makes no sense, because the acting half the time makes no sense. The entire film is a dog's vomit. It is a dog's breakfast of film. So yeah, I'm gonna go with negative infinity Barbies. It is that bad.
I mean, he really hated this movie.
This movie is not just a piece of shit. This movie is a flaming piece of dog shit piled atop an entire dumpster on fire, piled atop a landfill filled with dog shit. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Wow. So cool, Ben. You're so cool and edgy and original. Anyway, during his review, the Shabibo man made a bold prediction.
Week 1, this thing is going to clean up at the domestic box office. My prediction is going to just absolutely fall off a cliff after that. The repeat business on this movie is going to be non-existent because it was written by 2 people who are so smug and self-satisfied, in Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, that they have no audience.
Now, of course, we know that at this point, the movie has become like the best grossing movie Warner Brothers has ever put out and, well surpassing $1 billion. But, Ben Shapiro himself and his company, these guys are serious film people. That's why their movie that went out this year fell just short of that $1 billion mark at $840. $840 in its entire run at the box office. I'm pretty sure that the screening of Barbie movie that I saw grossed more money than Ben Shapiro's entire run. I mean, seriously, Daily Wire, you did an anti-woke movie with a female lead. Do you not know your own audience? They were never going to go see that. And the rest of us already know that the Daily Wire movie is going to be shit. Anyway, that leads to my first problem when dissecting what Ben Shapiro was rambling about. So he gets a lot about this movie and its messaging just wrong. But I don't just mean that in sort of like a bullshitting culture war way. I mean that in a very literal, like, he might be too dumb to understand the movie sort of way. You know how there's that entire scene dedicated to how Ken's job is not lifeguard and it's beach. And that's very clear that his job is beach. Ben doesn't know that.
We then go to the beach, and there's a scene on the beach where the Kens are supposed to be the lifeguards and the ladies are playing on the beach.
Yeah, so when I say he doesn't understand the movie, I don't just mean it in terms of like he doesn't understand it past the surface level. I mean, he doesn't even understand the surface level where things are explicitly said to you. Another example of this issue can be found in his debate against fellow failed Hollywood person turned right-wing grifter, Brett Cooper.
Right, I mean, the obvious solutions that are available, which would be like, Barbie treating Ken like a normal human and Ken treating Barbie like a normal human.
Yes.
That's completely put aside because he has to treat her like woman and she has to treat him like man, but
they're
only
dolls,
in the feminist
Ben.
outlook.
That's how Mattel created them.
Yes,
they're not actually humans.
But if the idea is that,
Dude, imagine losing a debate to Brett Cooper. Like, it's called The Barbie Movie. You don't even have to see it to know that it's about dolls. But then also, Ben Shapiro just has actual opinions that are objectively wrong.
And that turns into a musical number.
I'm just Ken. Where I see love, she sees a friend.
What does any of this have to do with the plot? Nothing. Literally nothing. It is just a 15-minute digression because they wanted to insert a crappy musical number with not particularly good dancing.
I mean, seriously, how fucking dare you? you leave that song alone. But don't worry, Ben Shapiro doesn't disappoint you. Just because he doesn't understand the movie, that doesn't stop him from doing what he does best. And by that I mean making bad faith arguments that make no sense whatsoever. Like, there's obviously going to be some stock standard transphobia just thrown in there because that's how every right-wing video goes now.
Again, interlaced through all of this is just more and more and more politics, right? One of the Barbies is a trans Barbie, and this is treated totally normally, as though this is a female Barbie with a voice, again, deeper than my own.
Ben, I'm pretty sure most cis women have deeper voices than you. If that's going to be the definition of what's a real woman, the only real women will be Alvin and the Chipmunks. Ben will later go on to mix his misunderstanding of the movie with his culture war bullshit by claiming that the movie doesn't end with Barbie wanting to be a human, but no, instead she just wants to have a vagina, which doesn't make any sense, but that's apparently why she went to the gynecologist, is to show that she wanted a vagina. And he says that just to lead up to saying some shit about trans people. I don't fucking know. He also claims that the Barbie is a fascist scene is the movie trying to just tell you its actual opinion instead of very clearly being a parody of like teen rad libs giving their opinions for the first time while they first understanding their own ideas of politics. Which is a joke that you would think he would jump at because it's making fun of liberals for being annoying, because, you know, we are. And instead, he just thinks that it's real. Also, you know how Will Ferrell's character is a parody of a CEO in a patriarchal society? And, well, you know how in the movie there's that joke where they say that it's cool that he's a male CEO because a previous CEO was a female. The joke, of course, being that the point is so dumb that only the biggest, idiotic, toxic man could ever think it's valid.
And he goes to Mattel, and all the members of the board are men. By the way, I'd like to see a corporate breakdown of the Mattel board. I'll bet I can find it. Like the CEO of Mattel for 30 years was a woman. So there's that.
That's not the only time he does that, by the way. He'll later go on to claim that it'd be a massive shock twist to any Barbie viewer to learn that the creator of the doll was a woman. You know, despite the fact that there is a character in the movie who is based on that woman who plays a very important part to the plot because she was the creator of Barbie. Now, in fairness to Ben, he only just implies that it's not really brought up in the movie. However, that implication is strong enough that other culture warring idiots like Piers Morgan will just go on to directly say that.
Mattel, the owner of Barbie, is represented as a macho, misogynist outfit with an all-male board of alpha dogs. The unfortunate reality is that Barbie was invented by a woman called Ruth Handler, who ran the company for 30 years as president.
It's just like a giant human centipede of culture war shit flowing from one mouth to the next mouth and then out into the mouths of the audience. But this is also where we briefly need to talk about Ben Shapiro's terminal case of politics brain rot. See, where you or I might think that the diversity is just there and the jokes are there, Ben Shapiro, he knows that there's way more to it than that. This movie is secretly a step-by-step guide of what the Democrats are planning to do in the 2024 election. Just one giant code. I really wish I was making this up. See, according to Ben Shapiro, the joke about the Kens building the wall upwards instead of sideways was clearly a reference to Donald Trump. Because as we all know, only one person in the entire history of the world has thought to build a wall. But from there we can see that the Kens are the Republicans. He's the one that said this, not me. Which then means that the Democrats are the Barbies. And so the Barbies' plan to cause the Kens to have infighting is what the Democrats plan to do during the 2024 election to the Republicans. While the infighting is happening, just like in the movie, the Democrats will go and vote and the Republicans will miss out on their vote, and that is how they will install their president. And why do the Democrats need such an elaborate plot? Well, Ben has the answer.
We get black female President Barbie because this is, of course, the greatest of all possible worlds. So Kamala Harris, the Barbie version, is the president of the United States.
Yep, this entire movie is apparently about how Kamala Harris is going to be installed as president in 2024. Because the president in that movie is a black woman, and Kamala Harris is also a black woman. I don't fucking know. I don't understand this shit either. Anyway, back to the movie. Ben Shapiro had some serious gripes with the film, and specifically the scene of Barbie getting sexually harassed in the street. He has two main gripes with this scene. The first being the implication that in some way a police officer might make a woman feel uncomfortable. Just a completely unfair observation by Greta Gerwig that is only backed up by any polling into the way that women feel talking to the police, or any statistic into violence against women that focuses on the police. His second gripe is with the line, "Give me a smile, Blondie," a gripe he focuses on so much that Piers Morgan also parrots in his videos. So what is the problem with this line? Well, you see, Blondie is apparently old school sexism, and nobody would be old school sexist anymore, right? So, let's see what expert screenwriter Ben Shapiro thinks would be a better representation of what it's like being a woman in the real world.
No, you can't parallel park. That's what makes you a woman.
Man, I can't believe this guy's a failed screenwriter. Hollywood was just so unfair to him. But anyway, Shapiro doesn't just want the movie to be more sexist. He wants to show how reality really is, which he claims is a reality where there's no patriarchy. So let's play a game. I'm going to give you 4 answers and you need to tell me which of these are not a real thing that Ben Shapiro said to prove that the patriarchy does not exist. Option A, a man approved this movie and women made money from it. Option B, that women were given the right to vote. Option C, that the washing machine was invented to make life easier for women while they do the family laundry. Or option D, that men are more likely to get stabbed on the street than women. Lock in your answers now. If you answered D, you are correct. That is a ridiculous and stupid argument that obviously Ben Shapiro wouldn't say, because Piers Morgan said it instead. But to be fair, there was context behind what he said.
Here in the UK, 1 in 3 women will experience sexual assault at some point in their lives. That's what life is like for most working class women. And you can't get rid of that by just saying, oh, we're going to make a couple of, prime ministers or CEOs women. That's the problem with liberal.
And you don't think young men ever get assaulted?
I mean, I do, but they don't get assaulted to the extent that women do.
That's not the point you're making.
You don't think who gets stabbed in the streets is very rarely women. It's young men by men, right?
What? I didn't say the context made it better. But also, as a member of the men who have been stabbed community, I just want to know, Mr. Morgan, have you ever been stabbed? Because if you're gonna scapegoat our struggles to try to deflect from the much larger issue of sexual violence against women, I just need to know, are you a member of the community you're getting offended on behalf of? Because if not, sounds like somebody is doing a bit of woke virtue signaling. Anyway, back to Ben, who is really mad about the brainwashing scenes, but not quite for the reason you would think. See, according to Ben Shapiro, these scenes are actually reflecting the reality of the patriarchy being amazing and feminists brainwashing the Barbies who were subservient into hating the patriarchy. And his criticism is that it was poorly written and executed because Greta Gerwig is a feminist and didn't understand what she was writing, apparently. While there is a lot to unpack there regarding confirmation bias and the way that conservatives will use their propaganda in order to claim that things that are designed to deprogram you from the propaganda are in themselves the real propaganda and blah, 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 blah. But for the sake of saving time, I'm going to skip over that and just instead show you a clip of Ben Shapiro pretending not to be offended by one of the jokes.
And then they make a couple of other dumb references, right? The Zack Snyder cut. The men, they like the Zack Snyder cut. Wow, that's terrible. Okay, fine.
It just makes sense that Ben Shapiro would be a Snyder cut bro. Anyway, Shapiro claims that the thesis of the film is that men and women can't coexist, and that's why Barbie leaves to go to the real world. Yet another example of mixing not understanding with the film with just directly lying to his audience. I mean, it wouldn't even make sense. If that was the thesis of the film, why would Barbie go to live in the real world where men exist? He claims that the scenes that show that Barbie didn't realise that the Kens didn't have houses was somehow proof of this. And he claims that the ending of the film is just saying that the original matriarchy was perfect and then reinstalling that. Which again is just not how the movie goes. That is an option that was given and they specifically chose not to take that option. Because it wasn't perfect. Oh my god. It really stands out to me that in this focus on faux outrage regarding this movie, he couldn't even bring himself to compliment the scenes criticizing the idealized version of the matriarchy and showing how it could be problematic and showing the issues with girl boss style feminism. But instead, this bad faith arguing buffoon just completely ignores these points entirely. Like, I get that his entire operation is funded by billionaires, but you would assume he's at least a bit better at this grift by now. He also maintains the not all men style argument that we saw from Piers Morgan throughout his entire videos. Essentially taking a break to point out every single joke that satirizes and exaggerates the issues and calls them out for being exaggerations, but then will claim that they aren't jokes and are very serious points being made that are anti-men and anti-pregnancy. Except, of course, he does acknowledge the one man the movie doesn't hate. The GOAT, Alan. Although, he claims that Alan serves no purpose, despite Alan being a representation of like an ally. But since Ben doesn't like this beta male cuck who beat up all the alpha male Kens at the construction site, Ben just throws him in the bad pile with the rest of the Kens. And how very dare you, Ben? Alan deserves better than you. Justice for Alan. One of Ben's biggest issues with the movie is that it doesn't solve the feelings of existential dread, because he's too dumb to realise that is not the point of the movie. He claims that the movie doesn't offer any solutions to Barbie's issues, and also doesn't offer any for Ken's insecurities. But if you know anything about Ben Shapiro, you know what he thinks the movie should have suggested. That's right, becoming religious and getting married. That's right, all the problems in the movie would be solved by just giving up and getting married instead. Including Barbie not being into Ken, Barbie wanting to see the real world, and Ken not having any sort of self-dependence or self-worth. All those issues solved by just settling and getting married instead. He also argues that this would just be really important because it would uphold the sanctity of the Ken and Barbie law. Which just shows how ridiculous these culture war types are. Because I am willing to bet any amount of money that Ben Shapiro does not actually care about the law of Ken and Barbie's relationship. I don't think he's buying the books or watching the other movies, no. He is just pretending to care because it's a point and that's how they work. In his second video, Shapiro does very briefly mention that the movie does offer a solution for Ken. But he mentions that as a way to mock it because the solution is self-work and therapy. And I'm sure that Shapiro mocking self-work and therapy has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that if more men engage in those activities, instead of channeling their insecurities into oppressing others and upholding the patriarchy, that would also just dwindle away his target audience of men who hate that stuff. Although, in fairness, Ben Shapiro does make it very clear that this movie does not make him feel insecure.
As far as feeling emasculated on a personal level, I just had my fourth kid, man. Like, give me a break. My reproductive success has been assured at this point, folks. I'm not particularly concerned about the emasculation charge.
Yeah, Ben, I totally believe you. Anyway, back to the getting married solution that Ben says should be in the movie. Despite all the very real and obvious reasons why Ken and Barbie should not get married, considering one of the plot lines of the movie, there is one last point that Ben Shapiro notices that he thinks is one of the main points of the movie that the rest of us completely missed. However, that one point also works against his marriage idea.
Really, the take of the film is that all the Kens are gay. That's really the take of the film, is that it's all homoerotic kind of stuff.
Ben, is there something you want to tell us? I know that one of your videos was just you saying that the Canadian Prime Minister is gay because he saw the movie. Yeah, but no, of course, all the Kens who spend the entire movie obsessed with the Barbies are all just very gay and homoerotic with each other. The entire film is just gay indoctrination of our youths. Because at this point, fuck it, there's no problems in the world that can't be solved by just getting into a loveless marriage. God, how do people watch this stuff and actually think he makes sense? I've watched 3 hours of him and I'm pretty sure I've lost some brain cells. Anyway, if you excuse me, I need to go deal with the thoughts of death that I have developed from watching Ben Shapiro for 3 hours. So, if you excuse me, I'm going to go find myself a loveless marriage where I'm holding back the woman from achieving any of her dreams. Bye.